Who goes there?
Huh?
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Wait, what does that mean? Oh, right, yeah. What time is it now for you? Okay. Wait, what? And are we starting at what's 4 for you? I wasn't sure exactly when we were.
Pretty
I'm
good.
doing fine.
Just got my hair cut. Pretty nice.
Sorry, I went AFK and then I came back right as you said you hadn't talked to me in a while.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, okay, if you click on screen, there should be applications and then there's screens. Just click on screen, like the main screen. Okay. 10 seconds.
Oh, you can hit the hide chat button. Bottom left-hand side.
All right, folks. Let's see if we can hear everyone. Just real quick test before we get started.
Test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let me
Who
just
goes
stream.
there?
Real quick test.
Hello,
before we
hello.
get started.
Test.
Yes.
1,
Okay,
2, 3,
I hear
4, 5.
everyone. I'm gonna raise your guys' volume a bit though, because you're a little quieter.
Oh my God! It's just, I'm staring into infinity.
Yes. All right. Hey guys, thank you for popping in. So today I have with us Harrison, who is the guy in the top left corner, the brown window, and he's the voice actor for Diver 1. Then on the bottom left we have the red screen, which is Dr. Sumerian, who is the voice actor for Diver 3. And then the monkey in the bottom right corner is Zarindo, who modeled and textured the SCP-3000
And
model.
designed.
And designed, yes. So yeah, real quick, I thought I'd start the Q&A with a couple fun facts I learned while kind of doing some research for just like saturation diving and deep sea diving. So one of the big changes I had to make that makes this entire film completely unrealistic is that sat divers don't sound normal when they talk. They actually can't breathe in normal air when you're that deep underwater, so they're actually breathing in a helium-oxygen mix. So literally the entire time their voice sounds like they're huffing balloons, and it's like this super high-pitched voice for weeks at a time underwater. So yeah.
Sometimes I worry. Sometimes I worry about your memory because I could have sworn you told me that, like before we recorded.
Yeah, no, I definitely
Recorded
did.
online.
He
Yeah.
definitely told me about it before we recorded. I remember him discussing that as a thing.
And I was tempted to make like a second cut where I make it like more realistic, but nobody got time for that.
Also, that would have been silly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to give up on realism when it seems unrealistic. As weird as that sounds.
No, definitely. Creative decisions. And then I guess for people wondering why they can't breathe normal air, it's because you'll get nitrous oxide poisoning. So basically the nitrogen in the air starts like getting into your bloodstream, and it basically makes you feel like you're drunk, almost kind of like. It's very disorienting, and you kind of don't want to feel like that when you're 1,000 feet under the water. So,
and they can't make it pure oxygen because that'll also kill you.
Yes, that will definitely kill you. So yeah, they have to find
yeah.
I think you can also do it technically with neon gas. It's like one of the noble gases.
Probably, but helium's your best bet.
Way cheaper. And I can't remember the name. There's another, I think it's xenon, but it makes your voice way deeper, so they could technically use that one too, but again.
There's any of the noble gases, helium, I think, well, the lighter of the noble gases are probably pretty reasonable. After that, you start to have to worry about the fact that, like, some of the heavier stuff just sits in your lungs and doesn't want to get out. That's a problem too.
Yeah. Like, I hear it literally, it's like physically hard to like exhale the air out. Which is kind of interesting because it's more dense.
Yeah, so going for a lighter one has its other benefits as well.
And then, okay, so people might be wondering, how come we don't see them exhaling bubbles when we're swimming? So originally I was going to do it, put it in, but then I was doing more research and I realized, for some reason, it's not all saturation dives, but I've noticed there are saturation dives where they have a completely closed air system. So when they exhale, they actually don't exhale bubbles. It is all like in a closed system with the air pipe or air tube going to the diving bell or the ship. So that's why they don't exhale until the drowning shot. And then, the grouper scene. Kind of the only reason I put that in is to show off the rig, but also because I learned in real life a lot of divers end up having like quote unquote pet groupers, where if they kind of dive in the same area for a long time, a lot of the same groupers will go up to them and they almost act kind of like dogs. And I thought that was really cool. Like they'll look for treats or like want pets and things like that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So I kind of use that as a little fun little, I guess, Easter egg or thing to show in the story. But yeah, that's all the like little fun facts I kind of learned along the way while making this. But I thought we'd just dive into kind of like all the nitty gritty like production and kind of all the challenges I had to, the whole team had to overcome when basically making this thing. So I think I've talked about this before, but the main reason I moved to 3D animation is because of COVID and the fact that like I couldn't film for at least a year, and even now it's difficult because of the locations I have. But in the end, it also meant I can actually do a lot more interesting things and have a lot more creative freedom. So that's why I really am just kind of enjoying sticking to 3D animation now, because there's a lot more cool stuff I could do that I could never do with low budget live action stuff. So yeah, the biggest like free software out there that's really good for 3D animation is called Blender, for people who don't know. So that's everything, or the majority of things that was used for making the film. Cedric used a different program though called ZBrush, and that's what like is like the industry standard for making like 3D models and things like that, especially like creatures or organic things. And then let's see, I basically learned just from YouTube stuff, and with Cedric, Nick, and Max Taylor helping me out. So, and a little bit of Mr. Clay too. So thank you all. You guys definitely made it possible. And that's also why this thing took so damn long. It's because I was literally dumb enough to decide to make a film before learning everything, just to kind of push myself through the gauntlet and get over the kind of, I guess, fear or anxiousness about like, oh my God, making an animated film. And now that I've done it, I know I can do it. And it's just like got past that mental block.
You're insane, but you follow through on your insanity, which is why I like you.
Yes. I question if it was worth it, but it could have been a much smarter. I don't recommend this method for anyone. If you want to learn this way, make like a 30-second thing, not like a 7-minute goddamn film. But yeah, so for writing, for people interested, I wrote 4 drafts eventually, and I ended up cutting out a lot of dialogue to streamline things. And people are asking, oh, why didn't you do more, yada yada. Keep in mind, this is my first animated film, so I tried to keep the story very simple. Like, there's nothing really crazy storyline or writing-wise going on. And this was the first thing I also wrote completely on my own, so I guess it probably shows. But yeah, that's why there's no, like, that's why it's not a 20-30 minute long thing. And that's why it's a pretty straightforward stuff. Because people, I think earlier, were asking, oh, why didn't you show, like, the black goo that comes out of him and all that stuff? And I'm like, that would have been weeks of more work doing, like, water and slime simulations and things like that. So, all right. Speaking of challenges, I thought I'd jump in now with probably my biggest challenges that literally took weeks and weeks of like practicing and learning. Character rigs. So basically, I bought a diver model that was rigged. So the rig, for people who don't know, that's basically like the bones of a 3D model. It's what lets you animate it. And the model I got, its rig was horrible. It did not look good at all. So I had to literally learn how to build it from scratch. And then originally I wanted to use motion capture animation, which is basically like, it lets you like live puppet a 3D model. So it's way, way faster than hand animating. But in the end I couldn't for kind of technical reasons I'm not going to get into. But that took so long to make a model and then to make the model mocap friendly in the end. And then originally I wanted to actually render everything out in Unreal, but sad to say, the program I used, Blender, a lot of the textures that Nick made in it, and Nick's not here for people wondering, but Nick was also one of the people who modeled and textured everything, like the oil rig and the dive bell and all that stuff. But yeah, Blender and Unreal don't play nice, and basically if you want to move textures from Blender into Unreal, they just don't work half the time, or they like get messed up and they look weird. So that's why in the end we didn't use it. And then so people were kind of wondering about like, oh, why is there grain? Well, that's because of the water effect. So if I didn't have this water, it's called a volumetric. If I didn't have the water volumetric, the light would just look like air. Like it wouldn't look like it's underwater. And that was probably easily one of the hardest things of this entire film, was getting that effect to work, because it was not working. It took weeks to like finally work it down using complex texture nodes and all this stuff. And then once it worked, we found, oh, cool. We can't use denoisers, which when you render out an image, it looks very grainy. There's a lot of like little dots on it. And so usually what these programs have is have these things called denoiser, which kind of makes the screen or the image look nice and clean and crisp. None of them worked with the water volumetric. So it's either it looks like water or it looks a bit grainy. So we decided in the end, cut our losses and to make it a bit grainy and kind of lean into like a found footage, kind of like early 2000s grainy like underwater footage. And then the bubble scene, doing bubble physics. So that whole dive scene, I'm really happy that some people have really complimented, because that, again, also took weeks to learn. And physics, for people who don't know in Blender, is horrible. The physics system is really, really bad. So I was basically working with one of the worst physics simulators to make that scene. And then also texturing transparent things that have to look like they're underwater, also very hard. And I started to regret having a film underwater for my first animated thing. But hey, I learned a lot of it. And then the lighting was actually a lot of fun. Rendering was, again, a nightmare. I think for a lot of people don't realize how long it takes to render out 3D animated stuff. It literally took, I believe, 2.5 weeks to render out this film. And that's with 2 computers and a render farm that we paid for. So yeah, for people wondering, oh, why is it not 20-30 minutes? Thing would have taken like over a month to render out. Normally you can render things out faster, but again, because of the water volumetrics, it took way longer than it normally would. Like about 12 minutes per single frame. And for people who don't know, this film is 24 frames per second. So there's, I think, about over 10,000 frames for this entire film. So do the math. And then Cedric, I want to kind of throw the ball to you. For people who don't know, you made more than one 3000. So kind of like, what were some of the things you learned or like challenges you faced, like modeling stuff?
Well, the way I started modeling was like back in 2 years ago or something. I used a program called Sculptress. It was from the same company that made ZBrush. That's like more simple and it's for free. It's not bad, but it has its limitations, and UV mapping isn't that good. But with that, I kind of started modeling, and I made the SCP-3031 made for one of your short films. Wasn't bad, but Apology was kind of a mess. But yeah. Later yeah.
Well, just real quick, for people who don't know what topology is, so if you know what a polygon is, it's basically like how the polygons are like patterned or ordered. That's a really, really oversimplification, but yeah. Yeah,
it's basically triangles. They make up the model. The more there are, the bigger the model, bigger the resolution. and the laggier the PC gets. But,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you need to know how to do retopology. It's basically making a smaller version of the model you just made, but baking the details on the smaller one. It's called normal maps. Those are the ones that kind of preserve the little bumps, scales, skin wrinkles, all that stuff.
Yeah, it like fakes the texture essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's like a trick.
Movies use that as well, as far as I know.
Yeah.
They do the model, do retopology. Retopology in movies is usually really big because they have close-up shots and all that stuff. But yeah, they use a normal map baking. They fake the details, but yet still very detailed.
And then, I mean, I'm not going to get too into this, but there's other ways of faking detail called like bump maps, displacement maps, and they all kind of end results similar, but they're all doing it in different ways, and some are higher quality than others. But yeah. And then I guess for people who don't know, you basically like hand painted or hand brushed basically all the texture, right? Yeah,
some people do it with a tablet, which I don't really get for some reason. I do it with a mouse.
Really?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I just got used to it.
Oh my god,
it's just,
you're insane.
It's a thing I have. It's, you know, the more you draw, the more your hand is like, you know, very careful with doing like drawing lines and stuff. So I kind of got used to drawing with a mouse. Still doing it. I'm not changing my mind. As nice as it sounds, having a tablet and doing it with a little pen, but I'm sticking to my mouse.
Gotcha. Power to you. And eventually, so we're gonna actually release. I'm aiming for next week, but we'll see. Kind of like a how it's made video, so you can see the two different versions of 3000 that Zurindo made, and kind of some quick shots of like you texturing and painting. Which is cool. All right, just so, I mean, is there any other like big things?
For me?
Yeah.
I think the model I made for 3000 was like 7 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it was actually quite a while ago. Yeah.
It was November, I think, for the last one.
Yeah. The workflow was kind of a mess back then because I still had to learn a lot of things along the way. The model itself was really good. I still had to learn retopology and how it works and how to preserve the most amount of detail. So I kind of had to separate the model into different sections. So each section has like a normal map, details, all that stuff. So the whole model would be very detailed overall. But yeah, I learned along the way, and now my workflow should be a little better.
Yeah, actually,
a little mess.
That reminds me, well, with Nick, when he was making the oil rig, so if you've seen the film, there's like all these barnacles and kind of like seaweed on the oil rig. That's all basically a displacement map. It's all like fake detail. Because if we actually had that be like actual 3D model, I mean, we tried. It literally crashed Blender immediately. It was way too much. Because the rig itself was already like over 10,000 polygons. It was a lot. And we were trying to like, we eventually figured out way more efficient ways. So like each shot only shows as much of the oil rig as possible, and then the rest is like erased from that shot. So that way it's not eating up computer processing power. But yeah, that was like a big challenge, was trying to make it look, and we kind of fudged it, because if you really, really looked hard, actually, I don't know if you can really see it in the final render, but at least in the Blender, you could see like these huge seams where like it was very obviously not a continuous texture. So we kind of like had to do some tricks to kind of hide it. But even in the end, it wasn't like perfect per se. Just good enough for the film. That's what matters in the end. You don't need it to be perfect, like a perfect project, because no one cares about how your project looks. And then, so basically, after all the models were set up and I basically had the script was finally finalized, that's when I brought in the voice actors, because I didn't want to waste their time and rewrite a script, have them record lines, rewrite the script, blah, blah, blah. So hot tip for you filmmakers out there, make sure that's your final film and you're not changing anything before you bring in voice actors. And so Harrison's local, he's a good friend of mine. But so it was kind of interesting. We recorded everything locally with Harrison, but then with Sumerian, everything was digital. Do you guys kind of want to talk about, I guess Harrison first, do you guys want to talk about your experience voice acting? 3000?
Yeah, sure. Well, just to give some context here, I've known James since we were kids.
Yeah, early childhood
and
friends. Yeah.
I've been doing like even before the Forlorn Foundry days. He's kind of used me as his monkey, so to speak. But
you gotta paint it like that.
well, no. It was all worth it. It was all worth it. I enjoyed it.
It was consensual.
Yes.
Okay.
But like, so initially, you'll, for those who paid, I guess, close attention to previous Forlorn Foundry films, I'm in a lot of the live action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing was, I think I made the pivot to voice acting right around the time we filmed the last live action one that I appeared in. I forget which one it was, but it was around that time that I was like, I kind of want to pursue this. And it wasn't the very first project that you had me record for, but this was the first one where for one, I had the proper what's the word? I had the proper motivation, the proper education. I looked at a lot of professional voice actor blogs to like, here's how you prepare to do this. Here's the necessary microphone, the equipment you need to get the voice to sound right. And when you offered to do like the in-person recording, I was like, this is really cool, because this was we recorded together around the time of when COVID was still kind of like in everyone's heads, and still like it's still very much a problem.
Yeah, I think it was like January or February. I think it was during winter.
Like they're late 2020, and I was like, this would be a nice, like, I at least want to see what it feels like to record stuff in I guess a larger studio, because I usually record stuff in my closet. For those who don't know, it's to make sure the sound doesn't echo.
Yeah.
And it's not the most comfortable, but it's effective. This one, I was in a bigger room to do it. And
a bigger closet.
Yeah, a bigger closet. But when we recorded the lines, that was when I felt the most like, okay, this is closer to what it would be like to record in a studio. And I felt really good about delivering my lines. I was okay with like, okay, this is like the perfect time for trial and error, because it's a more open environment. You're there to be like, hey, could you deliver more like this or not like that? And when I was delivering the lines, now I think you were a good voice director, because I recall there were times where even I was delivering the lines, and even I couldn't tell the differences between some of the deliveries, but you picked up on some of those differences. And I'm glad you did, because the takes you ended up using sounded like I posted about it on the Discord, but I felt that that was like that was the performance I was most, because the thing about voice acting is that, the way I see it, there are two types of voice actors. There are the ones that are really good at manipulating their voice, and then there are the ones that are good at doing their voice in the context of an animation or a cartoon. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do either. For Diver 1, I just kind of did my natural voice.
Yeah.
And I was worried about how it would come off, because kind of ironic thing for a voice actor, I don't really it's hard. I have a hard time enjoying the sound of my own voice. I don't like my own voice, which is
really?
Kind of a hurdle to get over when you want to get into an industry that literally requires you to pay attention to your voice.
Yeah.
But when I listened back to it, everything it sounded very natural. The emoting felt where it should be. It didn't feel over. It didn't feel too over the top for the situation, but not undercut either. And the more I think about it, the more I realize it's probably because that was one of the most tiring sessions I've had. I remember by the end of the session, I was sweaty and out of breath. Like, not just because I was in a hot closet. I let out a lot, especially for the scenes where I was panicking and yelling.
Yep.
I had to really get into that mindset of, oh crap! My friend might be dying right as I speak. And by the end of it, it was very satisfying. It was like I got to hear the effort pay off in a way.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, it was a great experience. One of my best done with you, considering how long we've been doing this together.
No, yeah, I saw like a serious amount of growth in this project. Like, I think it really shows. And I will point out, we actually did end up having 2 different sessions, but I think both ended up being at least a few hours. So it's not like it was just like in and out, read lines, and that was it. There was a lot of back and forth and kind of trying different things.
And you wanted some re-recordings, but thankfully those turned out okay too.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even that much. Now I'm gonna pass the ball to Sumerian. Now they've heard how like involved with live action with Sumerian, it was a lot simpler. I mean, do you want to just tell your side?
Well, I feel like you've tossed me this script like a little bit before it was like fully ready, just to have me like look into it, because I'm also a writer on the wiki.
Yeah.
And I don't recall having I think we talked on voice about it, because I was looking through our previous chats and like you passed me the link and then it just goes completely silent. So I'm pretty sure we must have talked on voice about it.
Yeah, no, we did. Yeah.
And then I made some suggestions on what you could and couldn't change. And then, I mean, after that, there's 2 things. I don't have to worry about the seeming panicked part, because in all honesty, I'm the first one to die.
Yeah.
So that saves me on that. But I think, yeah, I mean, it was just record the lines. I picked the line that tells me who Diver 3 is in this scene is pretty easy. It's aye, Captain. There better be a good reason they had to send us out so late. And then I want to know whose bright idea. I'm reading the script right now, but I want to know whose bright idea it was to buy a 10-year-old ROV that breaks on its 5th fucking dive. That's a little bit different than what I ended up delivering, but that line informs everything about the character, right? He's a little bit cavalier, despite the circumstances that they're in, which, you know, it's sort of routine, but also at the same time not. And also he's very pissed off that he had to get up from sleeping and come out here and do this, which is how I played him. And that's basically it. I picked up on that line and kind of had it as a through line for the character throughout, and that's about it, really. Just recorded the lines. I think I sent you, I'm gonna guess, because this is usually how I do it, I sent you the lines with maybe 3 or 4 variations on each one.
Yeah.
And then you sent me like notes on like 4 or 5 of the lines for re-records, and then I with like notes, and then I re-recorded them. That was that.
Yeah, it was super clean and efficient. And I guess just some background context too for part of the reason why Diver 3 was so annoyed. And this was one of the fun facts I forgot to tell. When you go saturation diving, it's not like you go down and you go back up and you're good. You literally have to be down there for weeks at a time, and then when you're not down there, you're in the vessel, the pressure bell, dive bell, for weeks, because you have to slowly decompress your body so you don't get the bends. So
yeah, I believe you told me about that back when we were working, or not working, when you were working on the script, and I was giving you like a couple of lines here and there that could change. I believe you were talking about a little bit about that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and I kept that in mind as something. It's like, this guy is really annoyed that he has to come out here and do this.
Yeah,
that the automated system already is broken. Like, he was at some point, like, he had to keep doing this, and he was really annoyed, and then they got this automated ROV, and then they were like, it just broke. And he again, all right, fine.
Yeah, it's not like a fun little like dive, it's literally like there goes my entire month.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, it was a very simple process. I mean, it usually is. I don't work. I don't work too hard, unfortunately.
I mean, you don't need to. I kind of casted you because I knew you'd fit the part, and I was like, yep, Sumerian. I feel like he has that like kind of. You're good at kind of playing like arrogant sounding people.
Arrogant and
like.
slightly irritated are definitely in my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you brought up like the lines that kind of really spoke to the character that you were playing, because it's funny because I was thinking about when you said that, I was thinking about what about Diver 1, and I was like, actually I think the line that stuck out to me most wasn't even a particularly like original line. I really like maybe I think this is a this has got to be like a voice actor thing, because I really like the line shit the comms are fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I like that because one, I think I was happy with my delivery on that, because I was frustrated without being overly panicky, because I think Diver 1 is meant to be the most overall composed out of the divers in the scenario. So when there's a serious annoyance, it wouldn't break him that deeply. So I think that's why I like it so much, is because even though it's a simple line, the delivery informs the character. Whereas if I was like, "Shit, comms are fucked," it would have that would have been very unfitting.
Yeah, a lot of these characters I actually wrote. I was watching basically a bunch of documentaries about like saturation divers, and since it's considered literally one of the most dangerous professions in the world. Like, it's more dangerous than being an astronaut. And they call them like deep sea astronauts because it's basically the same, very similar sort of situation. But there's a huge culture there where it's a lot of like risk takers. You know, it's like people who like kind of chase the thrill. And there's also a huge culture of never panic, because if you panic, you die, especially in those like extreme conditions. So yeah, I think you perfectly kind of captured that with your tone. And as for Nick, why he panics so much, I basically, for people who didn't notice, I kind of wanted 3000 to basically have different effects on all three divers to kind of just show the range of like how he can mess. And honestly, if I had like unlimited budget, limited time, I would have gotten a lot more visually interesting with him and how he messes with them. But again, for simplicity's sake, and so I could actually finish this film, that's why I kind of bit more external. And then let's see, I guess just be more end on a positive note, at least with my side of like production. I think for favorite parts for me, once I finally got to the flow of animating, it was actually very, very nice. I could like just get into a flow state and just like get into a zone, and boom, hours would fly by. It's just all the setup that was so frustrating about it. And you finally get to see these like transparent, thin, seemingly like dead models finally come to life. Like, especially when I did some of the basic animations for 3000, that was like the most satisfying part. Because
Can I throw a little interruption in here? Brothers Gaming, the 3000 was written by DJ Cactus.
Yeah.
Forlone's he's talking about how he wrote the script for the actual video.
Oh yeah, no, I did not write 3000. I made sure to credit him on the video, and also Jorith and crap, I'm blanking the other one. Sorry, but yeah, all the actual article authors that's on the video. Feel free to check out the article. Yeah, I'm only talking about the film and the script here, just to double clarify. But yeah, also I had you, speaking of writing, that writing and rewriting scripts is probably one of my favorite process too, just with filmmaking, and also lighting in 3D models. So normally I hate lighting with like physical space because you're dealing with hot, heavy equipment. It's very uncomfortable, and it's just not really a fun time for me. But when you do it in a 3D software, it is so satisfying. You can just pop things in there, and it just dramatically changes the tone and the look of things, and there's just so much freedom with it. And then Nick's not here, but Nick did all the sound design, and directing this, kind of going back and forth between the sound design was actually really interesting because it completely changed the tone and the vibe. Because basically before sound design, it felt their whole parts are just kind of felt empty and awkward, and it's very hard to like paste cuts when you don't have audio in 3D. Because literally I just had voices and nothing else. So it's very disembodied, it's very strange. And then once you had that sound in, and then Corvus couldn't make it, but he did the music. And that was like the big, like that's where it really started to actually feel like a film, and it really like added a lot of like emotion and tension to it. But yeah, do you guys want to share anything before I get into questions? Because I'm going to dig up some questions in the meanwhile.
The third author was a random day, so it was DJ Cactus,
okay,
Joreth, and a random day.
I'm curious if you know this. For 3000, the article. Was it originally collaborative, or they kind of different authors added onto it later in time?
It was originally collaborative.
Okay, gotcha. Because I noticed prior to making the film, people just only tended to credit just Cactus.
He's the one who posted it, is the thing. Usually, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I guess I'll start with the top. If these people are still here, huh? NM22, did Siren Head ever come out? No, and I addressed that basically, if originally I was going to do a partially live action, and just like again, it's also monetary reasons. It's a lot more expensive to do. Again, if you're on a very tiny budget, you're extremely limited, and you basically are relying on a bunch of people's like favors, which is not like a long-term way to run a channel. It's just constantly begging for favors from people.
Did you say Siren Head?
Yeah, because I basically made like a fan trailer of Siren Head, just kind of as like an homage to it, because I'm a huge Trevor Henderson fan, and I was really bothered by all these like crappy, just uncreative, uninteresting Siren Head things. So that's why I was like, I want to see Siren Head. I kind of want to make a fan trailer, or just like how I feel like the tone of Siren Head would actually be. So it was way different, and then I guess
making Siren Head content. Making Siren Head content's going to be kind of problematic though, since it's an owned IP with a full rights reserved.
Yeah, no. So I actually got. So when I released the trailer, I made sure to heavily credit Henderson, and Henderson personally retweeted it and like basically told me like this is probably the closest I've seen to like the actual tone of Siren Head. So that was like very like wow, like holy shit, that made my month.
Well, something I love about everything you make is that almost everything you make is motivated by spite for everything that's similar that doesn't quite capture the same.
It's not purely motivated by that. It is a motivator, I guess.
Yeah, it's part of it, but I like that you look at it and it's like this could use this. This could use more of this, and you know what? I'll be the one to deliver it, and you know what? That's admirable.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for Siren Head that was the case, and then even with the animation stuff, I really loved like watching like Astartes or like those really high quality cinematic 3D animations, and I feel like they're basically non-existent for SCP. I've only seen 2D animation stuff or like SFM, like Gary's Mod kind of animations, which are very different in my opinion. So that's also kind of why I wanted to eventually. I've always been into animation. The reason why I never jumped the gauntlet was just because A, I never wanted to be an animator myself, and B, I thought it'd be like incredibly hard and it would take 5 years. And it was hard, but it doesn't take like 4 years of schooling to learn it.
Not to mention the next one will be easier.
Oh yeah, it's already been way easier. I've already set up and put in all the main, because I'm actually using motion capture. So literally, for people who don't know, the next filmmaking is an Old Man short film. And again, I just gotta like put this out here. I'm probably never ever gonna make a 20-minute, 30-minute film, or definitely not a feature film. That would have to be a Kickstarter. There's no way in hell, with my minuscule tiny budget, I could ever like make a video in a timely manner that long. So, because I get that question all the time of like, oh, when are you gonna make a big film? And it's like, that's money. Money is a thing, and time and people. Those all cost money. But yeah, for the Old Man, that one Nick's already finished basically like 75% of the environments, the character models, the soldiers are rigged. Oh what? Oh, I had to echo for a second. They're rigs and already have their motion capture animation, and all the shots in the finished sets are like framed. So like it's already moving like 100 times faster than 3000, which is, I'm just so happy. If it was moving at the same pace, I'd be pretty defeated. And I'm trying to dig for a bit more questions. People are just talking about like SCPs and stuff like that.
What's your favorite SCP?
Yeah, I already got that question. That's why I didn't answer it. Okay, people are just talking about 682's trash. Guys, this is a Q&A. Okay, man, people are just having side conversations about SCPs. Sick. Blender, is that a Blender? Yeah, it's a 3D software. Why a live stream with no one visible? Because I don't think anyone... I'm not going to force people to go on camera. And also...
I totally could go on camera, but I'm not now.
Yeah.
Nobody else did. I'm not fucking doing it.
It'd be weird if, like, yeah. And also, just to say, Evan Royalty did a Q&A just like this, so I'm not the only one. Let's see. Maya, Houdini, or Blender with After Effects. Yeah, we didn't use Maya or Houdini because they're very expensive paid programs. And also, there's way more online tutorial content about how to learn Blender. Maya is a lot harder because most people that learn how to use Maya, they go to like actual VFX and animation schools.
Yeah, why would they teach that to other people for free?
Exactly. The people make money off of making it exclusive. Let's see. Someone's complaining. The same person that asked why we weren't showing our face, complaining that we're ignoring chat.
Hey, if it helps, I'm paying very close attention to chat. I'm just, some of it's not very interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Spanish. Let's see.
If you could execute anyone in the VC, who would you choose? Ooh.
No. My answer.
All right, I think I know.
God, no one's asking questions, guys. This is a Q&A stream.
Okay. To be clear, he's asking for questions about the video.
Yeah, these are all like not related.
There we go. How long did the grouper scene take?
Okay. So that, I guess I'll say it publicly. That is my least favorite shot of the entire film. I think it's the worst animated out of the entire film. Basically, it took a while because there's a lot of different... What's hard about it is it's like a big 3D space. Like, animating someone walking on the floor is a lot easier because it's just 2 dimensions. It's just X and Y. There's no up and down. Well, okay, sorry. I'm thinking of Blender where Z is up. And I realize most graphs aren't like that. But anyway, there's no up and down. It's just back and forth or left and right. Now, when you have underwater scenes where it's going through this complex path, where it's going, swimming in spirals and swimming through an object and going under and in and out of pipes. Oh, hey, Corvus, thanks for popping in the stream. But anyway, it's hard to like try to plan that out and then animate that path. So what I decided to do was to use like essentially like a rail, where basically the fish just kind of naturally goes along the rail. The problem with that is it looks really stiff and awkward. The motion, it doesn't look realistic. Because realistically, when it swims, it speeds up. When it stops swimming, it slows down. And the fish I have, it's basically it's not completely continuous, the motion, but it is still, in the end, too continuous of a motion. And you can literally see, even though the rail is supposed to be like smooth curves, it's not. You can see like sharp turns all of a sudden. So that's why I actually wanted to clean it up more, but for time's sake, I wanted to like rebuild the fish rig to make the actual fish also look more fluid. But for time's sake, I just like, screw it, I gotta move on. And also the fish was actually incredibly easy to make because I just did Ian Hubert, for people who know who he is. He's a Blender like magician who basically has a lot of really cool shortcuts for how to do things very easily. But he had a whole tutorial on how to model fish and animate fish with cheating methods, like non-conventional methods. So literally I took a picture of a grouper and just basically made a model off of a picture. So even the texture was just a photo of a grouper. And that's how I made all the fish, actually. They're just pictures of fish that I turned into 3D models. Let's see. X5 starter. The voice acting was awesome. I assume the divers were contracted by the oil platform company. My question is, were they part of the Foundation or just civilians? So they were just civilians. I didn't do anything with the Foundation in this video. I kind of wanted to just be like people finding 3000 in the wild kind of thing. So yeah, that's why they're basically completely take everything by surprise. How often did you change the design of the snake, or was it perfectly instantly? Well, it definitely wasn't instantly, but Cedric, you want to kind of talk about like your design process for 3000?
Yeah, the first one was, it resembled more like a normal moray eel. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
It looked a little bland. It didn't like look massive, like something that's like ancient, prehistoric looking. And plus, it was like it had like a long body on it, so I couldn't make it too high res. Otherwise, my PC would have fucking had problems.
Mine too.
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up just saying, hey, I'm gonna make a new design. This one's kind of bland, and I have an idea how to do it while preserving a lot of details on 3000 as well. So the second one resembled. Okay, I took inspiration from a moray eel again, but this time with a little whale, because it had like a lot of barnacles and like scars all over its body, like a sperm whale, basically. And then I took the mosasaur, the one you saw from Jurassic World. It's a prehistoric giant marine reptile, basically. So I kind of took that mouth shape and implemented into the 3000 design. So took some other fish species as well to make it look good, and yeah, that's pretty much how it looks.
Yeah,
I actually didn't know it was an amalgamation of a bunch of like pieces of different things. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I like to do.
If I remember,
it just makes a lot of things.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, if I remember correctly, the teeth were based off of sperm whale teeth, right? Or some like extinct whale.
Yeah, whale teeth, pretty much. Yeah. If you look closely in the film, you see some broken teeth as well. Like some of them are broken in half, as well. And I think it's pretty obvious that he has a lot of scars on its mouth, and that I took from sperm whales again. Because they fight with these giant fucking underwater squids.
Yeah, giant squid.
Yeah, giant squids, basically. That's how they got all the scars, basically. That's what I took for 3000.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun, because I remember we were like, kind of going back and forth sharing different animal things. Because we're both like zoology nerds. Strict break. Oh, Marcel said, did you go to the ocean and motion capture real fish? No. None of this was live action. None of this was motion capture. And also, mocapping a real fish, I think, is impossible. I don't think anyone has that technology yet.
The only way to know is to try.
Yes. Well, I know for a fact my suit is not waterproof, so that's the first problem. Strict Brick asked, if you were to go back to change a scene, which scene would it be? Yeah, the fish scene again, because I feel like also the transition with the fish scene was awkward. And yeah, I just feel like the pacing, the awkwardness of it, and also the animation, was my most ambitious scene, and I think I basically chewed off more than I could really chew with that scene. So I'm glad I tried. I definitely learned a lot from it, but in the end, I think it kind of shows that my inexperience shows a bit with that one. Marceau asks, do you have any tips for people that would be interested in making similar stuff? Yeah, so if you want to learn Blender, I highly recommend Grant Abbott. So I put all the people I learned from in the special thanks. So Grant Abbott, he has the best, not Blender Guru, not the donut guy. Grant Abbott has the best like beginner tutorial series for how to model in Blender. So highly recommend that. And then also Royal Skies, I think his stuff is kind of flawed. It's not the best, but it's the best out there right now of how to animate and how to rig characters. So I'd recommend those two people if you're just starting out. And I would also recommend don't do everything yourself. So figure out what specifically you want to do. Do you want to be a modeler? Do you want to be an animator? And if you're not sure, try everything out. But eventually, once you find out, try to simplify things. Don't try to like make a rig. Don't be like me where I have to make everything from scratch. I have to make every rig from scratch or things like that. Well, with the old man, I actually did buy the soldier models. So that's why things have also been moving a bit more quickly. Oh yeah, speaking of Blender users, the Volgan, who is a great modeler. I guess for people who don't know, the Volgan, a lot of the 3D models, he doesn't buy those. He sculpts and makes those and textures them himself. So that is not easy. It's very, very hard. So a lot of respect to that. And then, yeah, I just start there. And don't overwhelm yourself. Start small. Make tiny little goals because you're going to get pretty intimidated and overwhelmed if you... There's a lot to learn, but you don't have to learn all at once. There's plenty of time to piece it away. Let's see. If money and Quentin Sloan, if money, time, and inspiration were all taken care of, would you add anything to this animation? And if so, what would you add? I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be a 7-minute film. It'd probably be much more like a 20-30-minute film, and I would have gone way much more into the psychological aspect of 3000. I would have really liked to get more into like the nightmare fuel, because in the original article, with one of the expeditions, I think it's the submarine one, where you really get into like the head of like a couple people, and you really get to like kind of see inside their head and see kind of what their nightmare is like, and how like the eel is manipulating them.
Gosh, that gives me an idea for a story already, based on your story. So, like at the end, when they all get eaten, I mean, because you're doing animation, you can do anything you want to with like mind screws, sort of like psychological horror.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't die, and then you could show like what happens in their minds and the crap they go through in their life. Well, maybe they don't die immediately, like they get digested, but whilst they're being digested, they also get to slowly go insane.
Yeah, and I could easily see it now transitioning into like their nightmares and psychosis, basically.
Yep.
Transitioning to the black mucus that it secretes. So that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be fun to act out.
Yeah, no, it'd be way more intense as a role.
Which by the way, a simple thing that people may have missed, but a nice touch I liked that was added was, the entire time we're talking, our voices are muffled by the radio comm, and then I think the last line, when I ask "What are you?" it's not muffled.
Yep.
It's the sound of me.
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, what I was trying to do there is like, it's just like him psychically talking with 3000 at that point. They're not speaking through technology or comm systems anymore. It's basically like this kind of like ethereal space. That's why it sounds a bit more echoey too and stuff like that.
Yeah, simple but very essential to the story being told.
Mm-hmm. Corvus asks, "Damn, the diver holding the face of the bubbles was also fully animated." Yeah, that's all those bubbles are all fake. That's all particles, and that originally I was gonna actually do motion capture for that scene, but then I was like, screw it, and I kind of just winged it. And that was also the second hardest thing. The bubbles literally took me like over a week or two to learn, just because there were so many like issues with it. And to this day, if you look closely, I guess I'll break the illusion for some people. There's 3 different emitters spewing at the bubbles. So if you look closely, you can probably see 3 separate streams, and that was driving me insane. It didn't really look like a cloud of bubbles. So if you really, really look, I'm sure you can probably notice that now, and you'll start to like realize like, ah, shit. Let's see. Why did you choose a crying baby to voice 3000? That's a Zerindo question.
Oh yeah. So I was playing around with Audacity. It's a program where you can like do sound design basically. You can manipulate sound however you want. You can't really do like composing really. It's just for making. For example, if you want something to sound muffled or like sound that's coming out of a radio, Audacity is a pretty good program. So what I did, just out of pure boredom, basically. I took the sound of a baby crying, and I just tried to make it as muffled and deep as possible. And then I ended up with this weird, disturbing, deep creature sound that I thought sounded really nice. Then I sent it to James, and hey, this actually is perfect for 3000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised how well it worked, honestly. And I had to make sure I credited the crying baby, so I'm glad you found that trick.
Nice touch.
Because I was like, it's too good to just like have people not know about it. And I love when I hear like sci-fi films or whatever, and I hear like, oh, this sound is like an elephant mixed with a lion, like Jurassic Park did a lot of stuff like that. I always thought that was so cool. So Strickbake asks, are you going to make a continuation of 3000 or any aftermaths like the 1048 addendum video? No, just because there's so many other stories I'd like to make videos on, and again, because of money limitations and time limitations, I can't just willy-nilly do whatever. I have to really consciously think like, what do I think I can effectively tell a story about, and have it be way more creatively interesting. So then this kind of segues into X5 Star to ask, what's your next video project going to be about? So it's going to be about SB-106 Old Man. And again, it's a simple story. It's not like super complex. It's going to be a short film, probably going to be around 6 to 8 minutes again, but split into parts, because I kind of took inspiration from the Warhammer channel at Stardies, where he basically wrote his stories in a way that could be broken up into 3 videos, and then in the end, when he finished all the videos, he turned it into one short film. So that's what I'm doing with The Old Man. It's going to be 3-parter, where each part's probably going to be like 2 or 3 minutes. And I am doing my personal interpretation of The Old Man and kind of what his realm looks like. It is completely different than any creative depiction of his realm before. So I'm personally very excited for it, because I'm really, really happy with the designs we came up with, me and Nick. And yeah, I think it is personally, I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's the best design that's not just like green, black walls or cement, and that's it.
What's your version? Because I know there's multiple versions out there. There's the stupid, well, not stupid, I shouldn't say that, but there's some very basic ones out there as well, that like you were just saying. But I am curious. Give us a little teaser. What's your version?
All right, I don't want to spoil too much, but basically, I guess, yeah, I'll explain. Basically, the canon I'm working off of is The Young Man, because I love...
Oh, wait, hold on, before you say it, because I have a version in my head of a World War I battlefield.
Okay.
Is it anything like that?
So, partially. There's elements of World War I and like World War I battlefield sounds incorporated into his realm, but it's not just World War I stuff.
Gotcha.
So yeah, definitely gonna have like World War I like concrete trench and like drum fire artillery and stuff like that. It's not Brazil. Logan just point that out. And basically there's I'm blanking on his name, but there's a Japanese sci-fi horror artist that I saw his work, and that's literally what inspired me to make the Old Man film. Literally one specific painting of his. So I'm literally gonna have a shot recreating that painting, with kind of like a bit of a twist to make it more related. Where it's basically like this like mixture of man-made structures with like hellish flesh, kind of like environments. Yeah, you'll see when you see. But it's gonna be very interesting, because I feel like people never really played enough into like the fact that he's kind of, I mean, again, it depends how you interpret him, but he can be interpreted as something kind of connecting to some other realm, which is kind of how I interpreted his pocket realm. So I think if it's just man-made structures, it kind of doesn't really feel like that. But if you have this kind of like weird organic aspect to it, so yeah, that's basically the most I'll tease. But I think when you guys see it, you'll at least we'll think it looks cool. I can definitely deliver on that aspect.
Solid teaser.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll look cool.
I'll show you some pics, Corvus. I mean, not Corvus, Sumerian, later if you're curious.
That's fair. I just know I worked on a little bit of stuff with Illustrated on his channel based around The Old Man, and it was basically set in like the trenches of World War I.
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of horror elements involved.
Yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, I definitely am not. I definitely like the whole World War One aesthetic, and I'm definitely gonna incorporate that. And then okay, let me try to get to some other questions. Well, it's not a question, but Mind Dash HD says, "I want to thank you all for the nice work on this film. It looks so nice, and hands down, I really thought that water and the divers were real." Thank you, Mind Dash. I appreciate that. Well, SCP Po plays ZTWD asks, "Will SCP, I'm assuming 3000, he says 2008, but I'm assuming he meant 3000, ever be bigger to make it feel more endless, even if it's not?" Yeah, I think made it. Actually, no, it depends. No one has like a set size, I think, for how big 3000 is. So I kind of just went for one that is looked nice in scale to the divers, because some people have it where like submarines are like the size of my divers and compared to 3000. Let's see. Marcia says, "How do I voice act? How would I look about getting into industry?" So,
Is asking about getting into voice acting?
Yeah.
Hang on. You don't even have to listen to anything I say. Literally, just go online and go to iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. Literally, just that. It's a blog run by voice actor D. Bradley Baker, and he offers every possible tip to getting into voice acting, in terms of equipment, mentality, preparing a resume, what you do when you get offered a role that's like offered like a real role, like in a studio, and how to deal with that kind of thing, how to improve as all of those things. Literally, I'm just getting my start. Not even that. I'm barely started. So I can't good conscience offer self. So again, the site is iwanttobeavoiceactor.com.
I'll type it in. To be a voiceactor.com.
I want to be a voice.
Cool.
It is essential to any aspiring voice actor.
So yeah.
100% recommended.
Check it out, Marceau. Vogan asks, if you were to ever make a video on Sumerian, would Sumerian do the vocab? I don't have the funds to do that. If I had $5,000 to throw, sure. I'll mail Sumerian a Rococo mocap suit.
Would that be cheaper?
I can't. Then flying you here? I don't think you'd fit in my suit. No offense.
Yeah, not flying. I could probably go up some other method. But
I was dumb enough to get. Well, I don't know what dumb enough, but I got the small, and it's like tight on me.
Oh well, then you'd need a whole new suit. I'm a big guy.
Yeah, and that's one thing down the road I would like to get, just because I'm pretty petite, and a lot of actors I know too that are local, they wouldn't be able to fit into the suit either. Let's see. Oh, what stuff did you... Mind Dash asks, what stuff did you plan for the video? Oh, wait, no. Actually, sorry. X5 starter. I don't want to skip people. How much money does it take to make a video as long as SP2000? I guess how much money do you need? Okay, so that depends on realistically, or if people just work under rate and basically throw a ton of time that is unpaid towards essentially a passion project. So for 3000, the budget was like a few thousand. It was very small. And I didn't get paid. All my time was essentially free. Only a few people, only basically like people who were doing heavy work got paid. There's no way in how I could have paid everyone too. So that is kind of the nature of just when you make passion projects without a studio backing or like lots of money funding it. Now, realistically, if I wanted to like actually make a short film, it would easily get into like hundreds of thousands of dollars. If I wanted it made in a time-efficient manner where I could actually hire a whole team. I could hire a 3D modeler. I could hire someone to do retopology. I could hire someone to do multiple people to do animation. I could hire people, I think you guys kind of get a sense of how much is involved with the process, and the fact that like I and so many other people have been essentially assuming so many different roles. It's not normal, but it's also kind of a new thing with kind of a lot of indie films and how they're made nowadays. So it's kind of a new field in a sense with animation, now that everything's getting a lot easier for that home and you don't need some supercomputer to do these things anymore. So yeah, it's hard. It depends, but like eventually the hope is that if 3000 does well, we will do a Kickstarter. So, but we just have to see how things go. Let's see. Was there stuff that you planned for the video that didn't get in? No, actually. I kind of really knew what scale I had to go for. Gengar friend says, do you have any inspirations? Well, it depends on the film. For 3000, it was a lot of saturation diving and a lot of like really cool underwater like thalassophobia stuff. That's really r/thalassophobia. I saw a giant oil rig and I knew like, that's where I want to set the film. And I can't even remember why I originally wanted to do 3000 because it was so long ago. But for the old man, I have way more interesting stuff. Basically, I pulled a lot of inspiration from a lot of artists I respect, and kind of took a lot of different sources and kind of mixed them together into something new. So yeah.
Actually, I think I remember what it was that made you want to do 3000 specifically. I distinctly remember long before you even started working on it. I think you sent me. I think it was in the concept stage. You sent me images, these really captivating images of these gigantic sea creatures with just this small man for scale next to them.
Oh yeah.
And
okay.
you were like, this shit is beautiful. I need to make something. I want to make something like this.
Yeah. Okay. Now I remember because I was so tired of like having to do live action stuff where you can't do like huge grand scale things. So I think that makes sense why I want to do just like a giant monster thing in a completely different setting underwater. Fogan said, I got a large and I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to rip it up to fit me. Hasn't came yet. Hopefully not. It's pretty expensive, those suits. Yeah, for people who don't know, these Rococo mocap suits, they're a very small company, and it's the cheapest like good mocap suit you can get, and it literally takes months and months of waiting. Like I think it took 6 months for me to get my suit, but then when I got the gloves, it actually only took like a month. So I was shocked, but yeah, hopefully it works out for you. It's a lot of fun, this suit. So if you ever have questions about like setting things up, yeah, feel free to message me because I put a lot of hours trying to like figure out good workflows with the Rococo stuff. Dev Nightshade said, as someone who watched it blind, it made me want to read it up afterwards. After that, it made me how amazing your short film was. How come it was a new story instead of a reenactment? I personally don't find making pure reenactments that creatively fulfilling. So that's why I don't just like kind of copying and pasting stuff, which I have in the past. Like that's literally what painting is in a couple other videos. And I kind of want to just kind of stretch my creative muscles a bit more and kind of add to the community instead of just kind of like adapting. Let's see. And I do have captions for all the videos, so I don't know if for you if like Google or YouTube can like audibly read out the captions, because I'm actually curious how that works. Strick asks, not a question related to the film, but related to the channel and its future. Will you ever do development streams, like developing on any future projects? When will you show the progress as well? For patrons, sure. Because patrons already, they get early access, so they've already seen some of the locations for the old man. They've seen the soldiers. Yeah, they've seen a bunch of, basically, they kind of see where I'm at right now. So for patrons, if our Patreon got big enough, because right now it's too small and most people just wouldn't even tune in, to be honest. But yeah, if patrons wanted it, I would do it. Yeah, definitely. And then I guess for people who don't know, I do like steady Pomodoro streams, at least 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. Oh, what the hell? I'm getting an emergency national weather service, hurricane warning. Nice.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You guys are getting your first hurricane in a long time.
Yeah, I'm in New York. For people who don't know.
Wonderful timing.
Yes. So that's not like an SCP or anything, guys.
It doesn't normally go up there, but I saw in the news that there's a, for the first time in like a long time, you guys are getting one.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm not too worried about it though. I don't think it's gonna be that bad, thankfully. No Sandy, but yeah, that I guess that answers the whole. But yeah, if you're interested, if you want to hang out while I work, though, I do stream 4 to 5 days a week on my second channel, FF Boys. Link in the description if you want like a study partner of things. And sorry,
Ooh,
Vogan, for
that's a good plug.
scaring.
That's a good plug.
It was a good plug. Thank you for Strick for the lead in.
Hey, I got a question.
Uh-huh.
So, how did the authors react when they learned you were doing this, and how did they react after they saw it?
Okay, so this is my bad. I only contacted Cactus at the time, because I don't even have the other authors on Discord. So I'm gonna DM them today actually. But Cactus was like, "Oh shit," and we didn't actually get to chat sadly that much. But I do want to have him on. Oh man, another plug. This is not planned. On my podcast, SCP podcast, that Sumerian, Volgan, have also been on before, and we actually do want to do an interview and kind of chat about it, so I could actually kind of get more in-depth reaction of what he thought of the film and just that stuff in general.
Maybe you can get the other guys on too.
Yeah, I probably would like to just have like, I'll have to see, because I was thinking just kind of each author is their own podcast essentially, and I can kind of just work it as a part of the podcast, so it's not just talking about 3000 the whole time. But yeah.
But how did they react? I didn't quite.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So Cactus was just like, "Oh shit! Like that looks awesome," and I'm like, "I'm on it." Something I can't remember verbatim, but basically he was like very excited about it, from what he messaged me. So that was very cool to hear, because I really, Cactus is one of my favorite authors on the wiki. He's definitely like one of the early authors I used to read a lot before I like knew the wiki a bit better. So. Although I don't like per se follow authors, it's not like I have like a list of like I read every author I read all the work of this specific author. But, yeah.
Right, but Dr. Sumerian's definitely your favorite, right?
Yeah. It's well, okay. I will say we have adapted one of your films, so that should say something. I mean, one of your.
Oh
stories.
yeah, No Fury. Yeah.
Yeah, that was released 2 years ago. That was like our last real release. Let's see. Day broken. No, day's not broken. Thank you, Marso, for saying my streams are cool and relaxing. The study streams. Hey, hi, Iron Armenian. Good to see you. Okay, Michael Bay. Will Dado return? I'd love Dado, and I would love to have him return eventually, but for now, no. Just because, yeah, basically I think Old Man is going to take up a good 6 months to make or so. Oh my god! I'm turning my phone off. It happens again.
It's a coming.
That's what happens when you don't bring back Dotto, man.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna get worse.
Dado's like hacked into my phone and sending me hurricane warnings.
No. That's not how Dado works. Dado doesn't hack into your phone and send you hurricane warnings. Someone tells him to do that, and he sends you a hurricane.
There we go. That sounds about right. Oh, and then someone asked who's my favorite director. I really don't have a favorite director, but I guess currently my favorite like modern sci-fi director is Villeneuve. He's the guy who did Arrival. He's doing the new Dune film. But yeah, I love his stuff. I think he's one of the best like directors when it comes to like doing sci-fi on a really large budget. So I recommend anything he's made. Siren Head to be angry. Yeah, no, it's not Siren Head. Rainbow says containment breach! Exclamation marks. I guess they're asking about the containment breach, which eventually I would like to make, but yeah, it's not happening for a long, long time. So, sorry, folks.
Down the line.
Do you guys have any other questions? Because if not, I'm probably gonna start wrapping things up. Because what is it like? Yeah, it's already almost 5:15. So I think an hour and a half mark would be a good place to end it.
Awkward silence.
Yeah, I'm also talking to chat. Don't worry, not just you guys. Okay, I'll throw it to you guys. Do you guys have any last things you want to... Yes, I'm reading your chats, brother. But please ask questions related to like stuff. Oh, any thoughts on anything outside SCP, says Dev Nightshade. Yes. I do have interest outside SCP. I really, really love, again, I've mentioned Trevor Henderson. I like a lot of found footage horror stuff. Well, yeah, I'll say that. What's it called? I really like Wildbow. He's a author that basically writes all the stories online for free. I think he has one of the best superhero universes. So highly recommend Worm. And then Twig is probably one of my favorite modern fiction writings. Like modern, I mean, that has come out in the past like decade. And it's biopunk. So if people don't know what biopunk is, I'm sure you've all heard of cyberpunk, which is like cybernetics. And it's basically, I forget what the punk specifically is. Samaritan, you might know. Because there's like diesel punk.
It's punk.
Yeah, it's just punk, I guess, yeah. So biopunk...
There isn't much of a deeper meaning to it.
Because I feel like the content... Because it's not like punk music, you know? I feel like most people think
but it's but you know, like the punk aesthetic, it's sort of that.
Yeah, like rebel kind of...
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, against the system.
Yeah.
But
that too. There's
future,
also, not just the aesthetic, but the concept of like fight the system and all these other things.
Fight the power, for Gurren Lagann fans. Yeah, so biopunk is basically like biological sci-fi stuff. So Twig takes place in 1920s America, but it's a colony of the giant British Empire. And it basically also follows, the four characters are essentially like children that were like biological experiments, so they all kind of have their own abilities. And so, yeah, it's a fascinating, amazing world. And I think it's the best take on biopunk I've seen today. Although there aren't a lot of biopunk stuff out there, I will say. It's pretty small subgenre. Yeah, you were gonna say?
the question asks interest outside of SCP.
Yeah, no, that's what I was answering. Yeah.
Oh, was it for you or all of us?
I guess everyone.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna drop kind of a bombshell here. James is aware of it. I don't think anyone else is. I didn't really care much about SCP until James wanted me to make videos with him.
You don't have to...
But so I can't even say that it's one of my interests. But in terms of outside of this, I guess since we're on the topic of comics, my favorite webcomic of all time. It's finished now, but everyone should read it. It's Dr. McNinja.
I've never heard of this.
It's Dr. McNinja by Christopher Hastings. It's my favorite. It's a webcomic. It's my favorite comic in general of all time. You think it's going to be the kind of humor, like you hear the name and then you see pages of it and think it's the type of humor that maybe it's a little like on the nose, but it's actually it is really smart. The writing is so smart, and I think the dichotomy between how smartly it's written and how absurd the scenarios that take place in it is why I enjoy it so much.
Cool. I'm gonna add it to my list. So
yeah.
Cool. And I know you have good taste. So.
Interestingly enough,
thanks.
I'm sort of the inverse of you, I guess, because I mean, SCP. I always take the opportunity to mention, hey, did you know I'm an SCP writer in SCP-related conversations? Because, well, that's cool for people who like SCP stuff. I've got like 110 to 120 articles up on the wiki, so it's like a lot of time and effort was spent doing that. Although I haven't written anything in a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
But if we're talking web comics, which is much more interesting at this point, I would give, if I had a suggestion to make, I'd say Schlock Mercenary as a web comic. It's also recently finished, as I'm to understand it. But it's a science fiction. It's a future science fiction sort of thing. And It ran from, I want to say 1999 until somewhere in the last couple of years. I don't know when
wow.
exactly it stopped. Daily, without missing a day.
Damn.
So there's a lot to it, and the art in the beginning, it's funny because you can it's a great lesson in how art is just a thing that you need to practice to get better at. Because someone does that a daily comic every day for however long. You can look at the last page, the art style, and look at the first page's art style, which looks like it was done by a child, and it's just such a different thing.
Ah, man, that's a list.
But the story is really, the storytelling is really good. I quite enjoy it. It's funny most of the time, but there's some other stuff inside the humor. So,
since we're throwing out recommendations, I'm also reading. So far, I love it. The Hyperion sci-fi book series.
Hyperion Cantos?
Yeah, Hyperion Cantos.
Yeah, goddamn right.
I'm on the second book right now, so I'm loving it. And I bought.
I think I just read the first one, but yeah.
The first is a good standalone too. You don't need to read all 4 books. But I was worried it's gonna be like Dune, where like only the first few books are good. But supposedly the entire series I've heard is actually very good. So I recommend that one.
I think I did the Fall of Hyperion. I'm such a big fan of that like Johnny Keats' The Fall of Hyperion, A Dream. I actually used that as like the basis for an SCP I was writing.
Oh, cool.
Actually, topically, me and Cactus co-wrote along with a couple other. I think Vulcan helped, and I think what was her name? Zhang did some art for it. It's I have a lot of stuff to keep track of, but. And so like the line at the end of it, was it his flaming robes streamed out beyond his heels and gave a roar as if of earthly fire that scared awake the meek ethereal hours and made their dove wings tremble. On he flared, and I was like, yeah, that's the ticket. I'm gonna write an SCP around it.
Yeah. Okay. Is Cactus also a Hyperion fan? Because I literally know no one else that's like read this series.
No. Although to be fair, it's not an unknown series. It's
considered a classic.
It's not like, well, I know what I'm saying is like it would be correct in saying that I haven't met a lot of people who are familiar with it, but it's also, it's not out there. Like, plenty of people, I have met some people that have been fans of it, so.
I don't know enough sci-fi nerds.
That could be it, yeah. See, that's the difference. Like, I run in circles of people who write for the SCP Wiki, so
yeah,
they're all
that makes sense.
Literature nerds.
Completely makes sense. Sorry, just to get... Oh, Alejandro, real quick, asked what's in store for the future of the channel. I talked about it earlier, but basically, I'm working on a SCP-106 Old Man short film, and I'm kind of taking some creative liberties with that. Marcia asks, how has FF Jake been? Haven't seen him at all. Yeah, he's been fine. He just doesn't do CGI or 3D animation stuff. He's kind of much more about like being a producer with live action stuff. So that's why he hasn't really been around lately. Do you ever think there'll be a movie series adaptation of SCP? No, and short answer is Creative Commons. I don't want to get into like the legalese, but basically there's a good reason why it's never going to happen.
I mean, they kind of already have. They're just by different names.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People have like made like their take on SCP and just kind of like put a spin on it.
I mean, let's be real. Control is an SCP game, but it's
Mhm.
they changed every now so they could sell it.
Yep. And I believe He Who Shall Not Be Named did a show that is very inspired by SCP.
Yeah, that too.
I forgot the name of that though. But let's see. So Quentin, I want to get to your question because I saw you rewrote it. If you ever, sorry, my message was confusing, but if you ever have the Foundry expand outside of doing SCP, where would you go? Also, what about expanding out of videos? Where would you go for your media? So I do have like some fun, really short, original ideas for like just kind of like fun alternate reality advertisements because I always love just really small, weird stuff like that. But I also have 2 original feature ideas that I've been shipping off of. One that I think is way more interesting than the other one. One is a biopunk kind of like opera, and then the other is more of like a normal cyberpunk thing, which is cool, but yeah. And then my like dream would be to make a TV show adaptation of Twig, but that's, I don't know, that's gonna be hard because unlike SCP, I'd have to get Wild Bill's permission. I'd have to build up a decent amount of industry experience and long ways away. Like if that ever happens, I'm probably going to be like 10, 15, 20 years from now. So, Dev Nightshade, have you ever heard of SP Overlord? If yes, what are your thoughts in general of live action? Yeah, I've literally interviewed Steven and Evan about Overlord on my podcast, SP Podcast. Another shameless plug. Yeah, I think they did a really good job, especially for what they're working with. I know the pain of how hard it is to make indie films on a hairline budget, so they really stretched that budget and made it look way more expensive than in actuality of how much they spent. Let's see. All right, I'm off to sleep. Bye. Thank you, Mart, so for popping in. Someone super chat $5 and say the weirdest thing in your head. I can't because I got no money. All right, thank you, brothers. All right, I think we've been going now for about an hour and a half. So let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. I guess, oh yeah, I'll announce it here. So next week, speaking of future plans, I thought of a really fun idea to do that would not take that much time and would take literally no time away from me working on videos. So it shouldn't annoy people. Cedric actually helped me figure this out because Cedric spends a lot of time in VR chat, and so what we did is we took the model that Cedric made, and that's in our SCP-303 Doorman video, and we basically put it in VR chat, and I basically can use it as a VTuber model. So basically what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be trying to doing every Wednesday at night is to do me VTubing or streaming as the Doorman, playing obscure, weird, indie horror games that are kind of like small, short, sit down and play it in one stream. So yeah, definitely tune in if you're into that and you think that'd be a lot of fun.
Hey, can I throw a weird small indie game in as a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
SCP-245.
SCP-245. All right, added to my list of 50 games.
So they can play so it can play SCP games. It can be the thing playing the SCP game.
Almost all the games are actually not SCP. They're just all like weird horror games. But
also the joke is I'm the one that created that game, so it's.
Oh, I didn't even know you made a game.
Oh,
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, SCP-2. Well, it's a long time ago, but it's actually an SCP on the wiki. You have to go to the wiki to download it. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is SCP-245. It's actually an SCP object as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely answer the list because I'm just going for like really interesting, weird stuff. And then let's see. Do we like the cactus verse? Which I believe is the Ouroboros cycle, right? Is that the same thing? Because I know people call it different names. If so, I actually haven't finished the whole like Ouroboros cycle series, if you want to call it that.
No.
Yeah.
But it's so short.
Actually, shout out to Exploring Series. I've been actually listening to a lot of his stuff and I got like halfway through his series on the Ouroboros cycle. I will eventually change it, so I feel like I can't really give an opinion of it until like it's actually done. And someone asked, what is my least favorite? So Brothers Gaming asked, what's my least favorite SCP? I don't really have one off the top of my head, to be honest.
That's a horrible question to ask somebody.
Yeah. And I also don't like have a list of like, oh, these are my least favorite SCPs.
What's your least favorite SCP? All of them.
Yes.
Well, the ones I don't remember because they weren't that good.
Which I'm not gonna lie is the majority.
It's all shit.
But
all sucks.
I also have a very bad memory, so.
Also, actually, no, I do have a least favorite SCP. Now that I'm saying that, like it's ridiculous. I do actually have one. It's funny. SCP-343 is my least favorite SCP because there's so many things about it I don't like.
Which one's that again?
That's the one that's supposed to be,
God.
The one that's pretending to be God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it so much. I wrote 2343 as a spiritual rewrite. Man, I really don't like it.
I actually never knew that. The more you learn. Brother's asking what's my favorite SCP. I don't really have like a favorite. It used to be Red Reality 2001, but there's just so many stories and I all kind of like them. A lot of the ones I really like, I like them for different reasons, so I don't like have like a number one favorite. I'm also horrible with pulling off a lot of numbers and titles off my head because I'll think like, oh, that's my favorites, and then I'll go through like all the SPs I've enjoyed, and I'll just like ones I forgot but actually do love will start coming to mind. So yeah, I'm like the worst person to ask these kind of questions for.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same way. Where it's like when I started reading about more SCPs, like some of these are cool, but there's no way I'm ever going to remember. Like I guess that's the inherent flaw of everything being categorized of the like lore of it, in that it's categorized by all the same initials and just a different number after it. Like. I just like calling him Peanut Man.
I mean,
I
that's
just
why.
like calling
you
him
pick
Peanut
it.
Man.
They have distinctive names, but they're not on the page because
Yeah.
that would spoil the immersion. So, like, some of my favorite names that I've given to my SCPs, I don't remember the numbers at all, but I remember Edward James Almost. And, you know, not only that, I was about to say, I don't even remember the numbers of all of my own SCPs. Now, to be fair, there's like 40 or 50 of them, so that makes it difficult. But if someone's like, hey, that one SCP you wrote about such and such, what's the number? I'm like, I don't know. And if I can't remember my own, I can't imagine how easy or how hard it is for people to remember things that aren't theirs.
Yeah, I find it's a lot of times don't even bother trying to actually find the name because it's kind of tedious because you have to go back to like the table of contents, scroll all the way down, or I mean, could you do like Control F and type in the number? But even then, it's just like extra 2 steps that just I'm kind of like, no bother. But I know if I actually did that, I would definitely remember a lot more because my brain remembers like titles to stories. It's a lot easier because you link the things together instead of a random number. Dev Knight says, are you interested in anime? If yes, what's your hot take? Yeah, I am, but I'm very picky, and pretty much a lot of the horror and sci-fi stuff I love is mainly Japanese, because I just kind of like how they go a bit further with a lot of things. But there's good American stuff too. It's not just like one thing. Does he sleep with open backwards turned eyes? It looks so strange in a film. Yeah, I guess that was a creative liberty of mine where basically... so a lot of animals underwater, they don't have eyelids. So I thought it'd be weird if it like was sleeping with eyelids. So yeah, and I thought it was just weird, creepy, having its eyes just like...
But don't its eyes dry out?
Yes.
Alright.
Alright, I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you everyone for your hard work. It means a lot. This was quite the experience, quite the journey. I definitely want a big thank you to all the fans who still stuck around after literally basically being gone for 2 years. Which, yeah, most channels are like officially dead.
Damn, you're right.
Yeah. We have not had a real release in 2 years. Yeah, and of course a huge thank you to patrons who stuck around for this long. Like, goddamn, the real unspoken heroes. But yeah, hopefully, not hopefully, things are already moving a lot faster, and things are moving. And now that I'm trying to do weekly streams, people should have no excuse of not knowing what's going on the channel anymore. Because the plan is to get Old Man out definitely this year, and kind of just never go dark again for as long as possible. So yeah, thanks guys. Peace. All right, now I gotta pull up Streamlabs. All right.